It seems like it's been 40 weeks since you got 40 winks. Your back pain? Unbearable. Tossing, turning, trying to find that pain-free position. And that's the moment you realize you can't spend another waking moment putting off treatment.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for spine care, with a ton of surgical and non-surgical treatments for back pain. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better, the Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This Podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This Podcast, episode 709, How Ashley Lost 45 Pounds and Gained a New Outlook on Health and Fitness.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. I'm Amanda Valentine, returning guest, Ashley.
Hello.
I can't remember if I've used your last name before on this podcast.
We usually go with Ashley Dawn.
Oh, Ashley Dawn. Okay. The first time, it's funny because it showed up in my phone's memories, was a picture when we both worked at the radio station together. So we both worked at B105 here in Cincinnati. And you're like, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. I'm going to lose weight. And we recorded a podcast. Oh my God, this was years ago now.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it crazy how fast time goes?
Right?
Uh-huh.
And then you kind of fell off the wagon, and then you came back and you're like, okay, I'm on it this time. And we recorded another podcast. And then the last time you were on, it was me, you, and Natalie Jones. Mm-hmm. And that was earlier this year in 2021. And I forgot how much weight you were down at that point, but how much weight are you down now?
40 to 45 pounds.
Dang, dude. Congratulations.
Hey, it took me a while, but I'm here.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's why I wanted to bring all of that up. Of like, for years now, we've had the conversation. You're like, okay, I'm on it. I'm going to do this. And yeah, I want to record this podcast to give myself some accountability. And that doesn't.
And then I never talked to you again. I was like, 30 pounds, going to lose it. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Amanda in the hallway. Don't look at her. Hide your donut. Oh my God.
But see, I don't want people to feel that way around me.
Right.
Because you know how it is. It's just like I understand. You know why? Because I have lived that life. I still continue to live that life. And that's real. And I think that's, especially now with like being a personal trainer and nutrition coach and all that stuff. Now I'm like, I don't want people to avoid me if they're not doing that. Like, I've lived that. I understand how it is.
I know, but it's just kind of embarrassing to be like, hey, I'm going to do this. And I'm talking to you to hold me accountable. And then I don't do it. Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but everybody does that.
I know.
I feel like everybody. And this is where for me, it's a learning experience to not take that stuff personal for me, because now that I'm in a position of I'm helping you do it and just knowing that's how human behavior is, I can't be like, oh my God, I'm a terrible coach and I don't know what I'm doing because this person isn't achieving those goals. And I'm like, it's not me. Like,
right. You're providing the tools. It's rather not your person is picking it up what you're teaching them.
Yeah, and just knowing that like you're not always ready, because obviously you've lost 40 pounds now. Woo-hoo. You work out all the time, which I want to get into, and so it's like it's not that wasn't within you, and it's not like you didn't want it. That just wasn't the right time. Things weren't clicking completely yet. You know what I mean?
Smashly wasn't done.
But I think that's. For so many people that have stopped and started again, and probably most people listening to this right now, be like, the important thing is you kept trying and this was important to you. You're like, I want to live a healthier life and whatever that means to you. And just because you had some attempts that didn't go the way you wanted them, you didn't give up on that. And now you're achieving those. And not to say that who knows what happens from here. Like
True.
It could be amazingly healthy forever, or you have setbacks because, global pandemics pop up apparently.
And then you gain your weight back and you're like, damn, I was so close to that 30 pounds.
Right.
And then you're like back to square one. So it was a roller coaster, as most weight loss journeys are. Mm-hmm. Just kind of trial and error kind of things. I said I was going to lose 30 pounds and then I ignored you for a while as I continued to make, poor choices and just, lots of drinking and partying and this and that. And then I really got on it. I think I did this program called Optavia. It's kind of like bars and shakes.
Yeah.
Lost 20 pounds, broke up with some loser dude. Like, yeah, I got this. Met another loser dude. A global pandemic happened. Gained my 20 pounds back and was like, shoot, I'm right here in this freaking right back to square one.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it again. And then through the radio, I partnered with Profile by Sanford. That's the last time I was in here with Natalie Jones. That's what I was doing, Profile. And it's bars and shakes. And it worked. And I was losing my weight again and starting to get like weight train a little bit. My trainer at the time was a little sketchy. I was like working out in his basement because it was a pandemic.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think he was selling more than workout plans. And I'm just like, okay, I got to find a new trainer. And is this something I want to pay for? And then when I think about it like that, I'm like, well, yeah, this is what I like to do. And it's the route that I want to go. And then my client profile, they're like, thanks. We're going to go back to a different radio station. Thanks for your time. And I'm like, well, shoot. Okay. All right. Did I learn lifestyle changes on this program? And I'm like, well, I don't have their shakes anymore. So what am I going to do? You know, like, and was that sustainable? I don't know. I was still back and forth between like, should I be eating real food? Is this going to be my life forever?
Yeah. Well, and that's where whenever you were still doing that when you trained with me as I was getting started as a trainer here at Cincy 360 Fitness. And that's where I'm like, you're not eating enough at all. Like I'm coming in here, we're doing some strength training. I mean, we're doing sled pushes. We're getting after it.
Yeah. And I'd be dead.
Yeah. And you just had like
girl,
a shake.
I'm dead. However, I do have to say, like, part of that was my fault. I'm supposed to be like eating all these vegetables and cooking at home. And I was just doing enough to like get by on the program. Yeah. Where I didn't necessarily have to change my life and do meal prep and be prepared. I'm like, I got my shake packet in my bar. I'm good. But really, I'm like killing myself, which Profile would not recommend. They want you to eat, your vegetables and whatever you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. It's just like when you think of like Nutrisystem and things like that, or like all of those other diet shakes. We'll say like, what, as part of a balanced diet, like we want you to eat some healthy meals and then just use a Slim Fast. It isn't, but then most people don't do that.
Yeah. I lost weight. Obviously, I wasn't eating a whole lot. So this was like July, maybe June or July. I saw, I guess, year before and after of like in your bathing suit when you're like, look at my juicy dumper.
Yeah, because I gained weight in COVID and was just going,
everyone did,
right, and just going through my own depression and everything else, and that's where I reached out to my friend Sarah, who I met through this podcast and everything, and that's where I'm like, yo, I need somebody to hold me accountable. I'm not in the mental space to do this by myself right now. Like I obviously know what I'm doing. I've been doing this a long time. This is my career now, but I'm like, of just, and I've learned through this process too, like all sorts of great coaches have coaches, and then to get out of my head of like, you can't ask for help. You're supposed to figure it all
Courageous
out.
AF.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm like, help me. And she would put me through a reverse diet, and we're still working together. And so that's where you see those pictures of like from the end of October and, now, and I've just posted one recently on my Instagram page at You Compound This, of just being like, of just, having somebody to, and I don't even really talk to Sarah that often. I check in every
Neither
Friday.
do I, and that's part of my problem.
But yeah, so I know that. So how long have you been working with Sarah now? Because
we're coming up on like 3 months. I did the 3-month package because I was like, okay, I'm not ready to go out on my own here and make sure I'm going to the gym and make sure I'm eating properly. And what is this counting macros thing? Because that's real food. Maybe I should do that. I don't know. I'll explore it. And I signed up for like the 3 months with Sarah Fit With Me. And the first week of my start this new lifestyle, I was at a 3-day country concert with a bunch of girls getting hammered. And I'm like, oh, I'm taking out alcohol for this first 30 days on the way to the show. As like, we get there, people are cracking White Claws at 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And I'm just like, well, this is going to be a challenge. And honestly, I was strong and stuck through it and brought my meals with me. And I'm heating up freaking shrimp and white rice in the cabin. And they're like, oh, God, and asparagus. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm sorry. It's Sarah Fit With Me. I'm on this plan now. And I from the gate, I'm like, okay, if I can do that and get through 3 days sober at a hot, steamy country concert with people that are absolutely hammered, I got this. Yeah. And that's great and all, but then it was kind of like the accountability part and the coaching part where Sarah's like, dude, you're not eating enough food. And I'm like, dude, I was happy to get these meals in. I had to go stand and watch and wait for Luke Combs for like 7 hours. I had no food. So it's still a challenge. Like, it's like, yes, I have lost weight and made changes. And, you think I'd be like doing like a victory lap. And honestly, I'm still trying to get my footing. And I will add like my goal weight. I write down my goals. I'm one of those people I like to check the box or whatever. Yeah. And this is where I'm like, what is wrong with my head? So my goal weight was 155. Okay. I was 195 2 years ago. And so I get to 155 and I've maintained it. I've been maintaining it, going up 5 pounds here and there, and then it's still like, I want to be 150 or 145. And people are like, the scale doesn't matter. This, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, I know that I look damn good at 150 and 145 a long time ago. And I'm just like, so I get here to this goal. I've learned a lot from Sarah. I am not the best person at logging food or checking in, which is not good. But I do know that, like, in the back of my mind, like, okay, I'm on a plan and I have goals to achieve. But then I get to my goal and just want to continuously keep going
lower.
Like there's no like, I'm here, I feel good, pat myself on the back.
But can you change the goal? Do I want to be stronger or anything like that? Or is the goal always just to be less weight?
I guess that's where like I need to, that's like where science comes in. Of like, if you add muscle, you're going to weigh more on the scale, but you're more lean.
Yeah.
So I do look at it as like a matter of losing fat, I guess, like percentage wise. Mm-hmm. I believe I was like 32% when I first started with Sarah, and now I'm 28% fat.
Heck yeah, dude.
Thanks. And then I'm like, okay, if I can get to 25%.
Yeah.
But I also just need to kind of live here and be like, I'm doing all right.
But are you learning because I know Sarah's process is so much macros and understanding food too, where it's not like she's like, hey, you have to eat this. It's getting that what you didn't have with Profile, which is a struggle me and you talked about earlier this year when you're doing that, of like, you're not learning anything about like the nutritional value of foods. You're just
and
like
that
the shake
been
bars.
A me thing. Like maybe I didn't do any of the modules that I was supposed to do.
But are you learning that stuff now? Like, do you have a better understanding of that now?
Yeah, I thought I did until one day I was like logging a lasagna. The next day it was like a cheese Danish and I was making it work in my macros. And then Sarah was like, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing, girlfriend? I'm like, well, it's in my macros. Like, I'm not going over. But like she could see in my like food log. I use Chronometer, by the way. It's free to log all of this. Like, I just kind of started making bad choices. Like, this isn't going to fuel your body. Yeah, it's in your macros.
Yeah.
But maybe you shouldn't be eating. But I'm like, I'm eating 1/8 of a cheese Danish every day.
Oh, my God. How are you doing that? That just sounds depressing.
What? I thought it was good.
1/8 of a cheese Danish.
Well, that was the serving, and that was with my macros.
Dude, that is determination I don't have. If I'm eating a cheese Danish, that whole thing's going to my face. Like, I'm not going to cut out 1/8 of it.
And that is how I thought in my head. I'm like, well, old me would have ate probably close to all of this. I love cheese Danishes.
Yeah, see, I think that's so much self-awareness and knowing yourself, though. Like, I know for me, if I'm, and again, it depends on kind of, it's all situational.
Oh, 100%.
Where if like, I just want a taste of this, I just want, I'm not craving it, but like, sometimes just like, if I'm going to go for it, I'm going for it. And that's just kind of me. And that's where I pick and choose. And that's why, meal prepping is helpful for me. And I know that's not everybody's
to be prepared. Yes, that's a big part of it. I've kind of got it down a little bit. Better than I've ever been.
But that's the important part. It's not like you're failing or doing anything bad. You're learning these lessons. And what's awesome is that you have somebody to be like, who is just kind of keeping an eye on you, being like, she's not being like, don't ever do this.
Correct.
But like, hey, I see a trend here. Where is your brain at? Like, let's have a conversation about it. And let's have an understanding about like, if you want to do that, hell, it's your body. It's your life.
Right.
Not to speak for Sarah, but to be like, is this the direction we're going in? Because everything like that is such a slippery slope, because we've all lived that life of like, well, I already ate pizza for lunch, so today is already a wash. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get Mexican tonight and everything else. And so it's like, if you start to see that trend start to build again and knowing that that's where you've been before, then it's kind of like, again,
pump the brakes.
Yeah. Not getting your hand slapped or anything, but just be like bringing awareness to it. And I don't know, it seems to me that's helpful for you to have somebody that at least can kind of have an eye on it. And when you have questions that you're just kind of like, hey, or I'm going to a country concert. What would you do, sort of thing?
Exactly. And that's just having somebody to talk to about the decisions you're making. Because, I mean, I went to Cumberland and I packed all my own food and I was ready to go and I was determined and I'm going to crush this weekend. I've got my food logged. It's going to be great. Fail. Right? So I come back from I ate all the food that everybody was eating. I drank all the beer and I'm like, oh my gosh, I blew this. I ruined it. I'm terrible. Oh my gosh. But then having that person in your corner, Sarah specifically, she's just like, hold on. This is like 10 years or longer of habits that I am trying to rewire and rework. Step one, I brought the food with me. No, it didn't go in my mouth.
Yeah.
But I brought it. So then I can't remember where I went. Somewhere, Nashville with you.
Yeah.
And
you brought all your food.
I brought all my food.
I did not do that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And I ate most of it. Not all the time. I was probably 80%, 78%.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I went to Nashville and I drank and I had an appetizer. But I did like eat my breakfasts and find like the microwave in this big ass hotel because there wasn't one in my room. And she's like, that's progress.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's something that I didn't notice because immediately my mind's like, you didn't do it 100%. You didn't do good.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to have someone just say, hey, yo, you did pretty damn good for being in Nashville for 4 days and you only drank once. Like,
yeah.
Come on. And I'm just like, oh, okay. All right. I'll pick myself back up. Thank you. Thank you for lifting me up and standing me up straight and just telling me to be nice to myself because it's always, we're all our own worst critic.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, screwed up. Damn it. No, I didn't do too bad.
So how do you feel now with everything that you've done just in this year where, you had a different personal trainer, you worked with me as a trainer for a little bit, now you're going to Orange Theory. I don't know what else you're doing as far as fitness goes. I know you've run like some 5Ks and stuff, and then going from Profile to then now working with Sarah, like where are you at? Do you feel like right now in this moment in August of 2021 compared to where you were in January of 2021?
Ooh. Throwing a lot at me, Amanda.
Because you've done a lot of stuff.
I always
this
do,
year.
and I think that's just a part of like my personality is always just going to be like, okay, what can I do next, or what can I add, or what needs to be removed, or what new thing can I try? So I would say that I have the most self-control I've ever had. Like I was in a suite at the baseball game a couple weeks ago, free pizza. I love pizza.
Yeah.
I didn't eat one slice. Could I? Yeah, I could have logged it, but I'm like, no, I don't want this. I'm in control of this. If it's just kind of like options, like a pick and choose. If I'm going to drink, maybe I don't need to eat this terrible food together.
Yeah.
Like just small choices. And I think when I fall off, just knowing like, hey, it's a new day or a new meal, whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas, I already ruined the day. That used to be my mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And then those days would be like, it's been a week. I haven't been in a gym in 3 weeks. Oh, I've gained 20 pounds back.
Yeah.
And that happens. And it's happened to me. However, I just feel like I'm in a good mindset. And I feel like I have good people in my corner to rely on almost.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a different headspace to be in. I like it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think that you've learned about food over the past year of just like knowing what food is bringing you and having an understanding of
you
like
need it to fuel your body. You need it to fuel your body, and different foods make me feel like shit. Like, I mean, if I eat, something I'm not used to, if I'm doing really well on what Sarah and I have come up with, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm gonna eat that. I've got some weird gluten thing that I'm trying to uncover. I guess that's next steps of like getting this hormone testing done.
Oh, yeah, because Sarah does a bunch of labs and we'll go through all the labs, which is how I found out I have Hashimoto's.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting because it's like whenever you think about, health and fitness, it's so much calories in, calories out, macros, getting your exercise in, which all of that's part of it. But it's like within understanding just like the biology of your own body.
Yes.
And under that, that's just something I don't know why it's not more at the forefront, because that stuff is helpful. It's helpful for me to know that and now having that understanding, and weeks where, because I'm not 100% gluten free, when I had more gluten in, like I did last week, I was having some bread. I was making French toast for breakfast because it was delicious.
French toast.
French toast. But it makes me feel different. Like I can see my stomach bloated. Like I can see
I know
it.
it's so stupid and new, but
you blow it off.
Understanding your body and learning about your body, it should be a part of everybody's routine.
Yeah.
You couldn't catch me saying that 2 years ago. You know, I'm having fun.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
it's just like taking care of yourself. It's a part of taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Why am I going to do all of this of changing my nutrition and working out and then not knowing what's going on inside? So it's just, I don't know, a journey that I've never been on, but I'm excited, a little nervous to be, hey, you know, you found out that something was wrong with your body, but now that you know, you can have a plan.
So do you feel like moving forward, do you feel like this is more of just a good like lifestyle shift? I mean, you can be completely brutally honest and be like, or do you ever see yourself kind of going through the previous life that you had? Obviously, you know, you're older and we all change and evolve, but do you see yourself ever kind of, you know, take out circumstances like global pandemic sort of stuff? Do you feel like everything that you've learned and everything you've been through in the past year or so with all of this has kind of just changed how you are going to move and fuel your body like forever?
Yes. And when people used to say, oh, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change, I'd be like, I'm just gonna lose weight and then do whatever I want. And I've done that, and it doesn't end well. But
because it always comes back.
It does. 10 times harder.
Yeah.
And then you're right back to square one. So it is a lifestyle change forever. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know how the hell I used to function. I mean, I would drink 2 years ago at whatever concert at Riverbend and then get up and go to work and feel like death, probably swing through White Castle on the way to work.
Yeah.
You know, to get something in my body to be alive. And I just see areas of growth that the old me wouldn't be able to handle.
Yeah.
In relationship, career, I mean, just like a different, like, I've always been confident. Don't get me wrong. Thick as in, was in, whatever. I'm like, here I am, baby. Here's this big booty. But it's just like taking care of myself. I can be better in every arena.
Yes. So how has things changed now that you're living with your mans? And, you know,
when we met each other, sorry, I keep cutting you off.
Oh, you're fine.
When I met him last May, I was in the part of my life where, on a little downhill, I was crushing White Claws and eating Skyline chili for breakfast.
Oh, God.
That's gross. I know everybody just cringed. Yeah. It was like working from home, and I didn't have Wi-Fi. I'm like over at the salon next door eating Skyline chili dip. And that's how this guy met me. And I liked to party, and I was ready to rage. And he thought I was fun. And, you know, he was kind of in that state, and our favorite food's pizza. And yeah, we're the best, whatever. Well, now I've moved in with him, and honestly, he has benefit from all of this. My eating habits. If I go off, like fall off the wagon, he's like, "What happened to us eating salads?"
Aw.
And I'm like, "Oh, babes like salads," you know. Or he at one point was weighing himself way too many times that I had to move the scale. I'm like, "You're being a little obsessive. You don't weigh yourself in the middle of the day. Of course, you're bigger than you were this morning."
Yeah.
Like, hold on.
But ultimately, he's being supportive.
And he got off blood pressure medicine.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, just by eating better and drinking less. And he's lost like 10, 15 pounds. I know.
That's
I know.
awesome.
I'm so great for that man.
He's awesome.
No,
we had an awesome time in
His name's
Nashville.
Nick. For those who don't know.
Yeah, that dude cracked me up. He's
and
very
he
funny.
loves food. I mean, he loves like we all do. I love food.
Yeah.
However, he's noticed, you know, if he eats better, he feels better. And that's easy to say, but we've gotten good at just playing around with different stuff, and we use the Blackstone, and we can prep different things at the same time.
Do you feel like owning a Blackstone is worth it?
Yeah,
it is. Like, how much are those cost? Are they like a couple $100?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I know so many
people do the grit, like I think it's a griddle that goes over your stove in your house. like a whole thing that covers all the burners.
Oh yeah,
So then
that's pretty much the
kind of-
same thing.
Yeah, but it's inside. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously. But you're able to, do your shrimp right here and your chicken or whatever, turkey burger over here. And you clear it all off, do your bacon.
So do you guys like cook stuff together, or you guys are eating some of the same things?
Oh, we're eating pretty much all of the same things, except for he doesn't track. He doesn't check in with anybody, but he knows that I'm like, what'd you eat today?
Put so much pressure on him.
I know.
So is he doing it because you're pressuring him, or is he doing it because he wants to?
He wants to. I'm just like, babe, what's going on? You falling off? I'm a bully is what it is. No.
Well, and he's got he's a cop. So, and then he works like odd hours, and that's just lends itself to, I'm in my cop car, I'm working off hours. I'm going to just eat like crap
food all the time. Yeah. They're like, oh, a uniform? That's free. Take 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, you don't need to. But, I think he saw my results and they were pretty quick, and he wanted to be a part of it. Because you get one lap, dude. You got to take care of yourself. You're in one body.
Yeah.
You have to like it.
Yeah. Well, and I just think it's just amazing too. Just like, a big takeaway of mine from this conversation is I just love how brutally honest you are of like, you're just like, I'm a pain in Sarah's ass. I'm like, I'm not always consistent, but that's, I don't feel like that's true. I feel like that gives people so much hope of like, it doesn't have to be perfection or nothing. You know what I mean? Of like, again, like Sarah brought up, you're making these little progress points. And I think it's so important to have those pointed out instead of being like, I'm either all in or I'm all out. I'm at Orange Theory every day or I'm a failure.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like to find that like in some weeks are just going to be way off and things happen and life happens and you don't feel like it or whatever else. And I think the important part is to just keep bringing yourself back to it. And you're like learning small little lessons, and it's not going to happen overnight. And it's probably going to take years. And just like we talked about years ago, I'm going to start this. And then you felt like a failure, but it wasn't. It's just like that's part of the process. And even now, as much as you've learned and where you are now, which in the headspace that you're at now, it's still not perfection. It's not like you're coming in every single day. And I think that's the important part, the message that like just needs to be said to so many people of like, it's never ever. In what aspect of life is anything ever perfect? It does not exist.
Nothing.
It exist at all.
Nothing.
So expect that out of yourself.
Yeah.
Out of, food and movement and everything else. It's just like the perfection is that you're doing what's best for you. And when you're doing things that make you feel not good mentally or physically, you check in with that and you make a decision. It's your life. It's your choices of like, you can decide to just keep doing what you're doing or do something that changes it. And that's where it's so frustrating to me on social media specifically. There's just so many different camps of like, do this or you're an asshole. Like, it's like, if like you talk about health and fitness, then you're fat phobic. And I'm like, what? Yeah, this is a new conversation point that's come up for me, which I could do a whole podcast on, where I'm like, it's crazy, but it's like how everybody is so divisive, as we know, through politics and everything else. And ideas of the pandemic and everything, like everybody is like in their hardcore camps. And for some reason, if like it's just starts wars between people, and there's so many of those just within the health and fitness community of like team keto. If you're not keto, then get the F out of here. Of like, whoa, not saying everybody's like that, but it's like, or do this kind of movement exercise. And if you're not doing all this corrective stuff, well, then you suck. Then you're just not, and it's just like, if as long as you're doing what's best for you and you're making these incremental changes that you want to make for your own body and you're doing those things for the right reason, I just hate that there's so many arrows thrown your way, especially if you're online and you're trying to learn information. It's
tough, especially also things like contradict one another. Do keto, it's great. Oh, don't do keto. Do intermittent fasting. Oh, don't do that. And
yeah.
You just have to, it's trial and error, dude, what works for you.
And it's research. It's like one of those things of like, hey, I'm really interested in intermittent fasting. Do some legit research on it outside of an Instagram account.
Exactly.
And like looking if that's something that you really, try it and like it or whatever. And then like get some information about those things. Get information about keto. Get information about strength training. Get information about what cardio is doing for your body. Just understanding the process, which I think is what changed the game for me, was like having just learning this stuff instead of somebody telling me, eat this, don't eat this. This is good, this is bad. And, if you don't do this, then you're doing it wrong. Of like, knocking all that out and trying to figure out things on your own, which it takes longer. It's extremely frustrating. It's harder. You're going to hit so many dead ends and you're going to be pissed. But it's like, but ultimately, if it's your body and your life and you want to move through it feeling good or whatever your goals are, then you're going to have to put some level of work into it. And that's true of anything in our life, that you're not going to get anything if you don't put some level of work into it. And even if it is handed to you, you're probably not going to appreciate it. And then it's just not even going to matter anyway. I don't know. It's a process. And I think people hear that of like, oh my God, this is going to take years. And oh my God, I have to learn what these things are.
And it's like, oh my God, I'm going to fail for a little bit and then have to like regroup and be like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing this right. And it's like, no, you're doing it.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, fall in love with the process. And I'm like, I hate this damn process. I just want to be at the end.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have learned everything if I was just at the end.
Yeah.
And if I was just at the end, well, I mean, there's a good chance I'd go backwards.
Yeah, which you have done before. And so have I, a lot of times. And that's, and then it's even so much of a bummer whenever you put in the work, and especially when you're restricting yourself and you're doing a strict diet and because you want to just, lose weight and feel better, and you do all of those things. And then when you stop and you didn't learn anything from it and you gain it back, the pain of that, of like, I spent this much of my life dedicating my time to do this, doing this. It was hard work just for it to be undone is like soul crushing. It's like, well, do I want to go through this again?
But then you can pick yourself back up being like, I've been there before. I can get back to that. I can do this. I have the tools to do this. And if you don't have the tools to do this, I mean, there's everything, a ton out there.
Yeah.
I was happy that you were very open with, hey, I'm struggling in my journey and I'm using a coach.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. If Amanda's using a coach, I can get one. I can talk to her. And then it was like, hey, you do all these things and send your pictures. And I'm like, oh, every week? But, I'm pretty good about it.
Yeah, see, those things, that personally helps me. And that's, we're working with Sarah of like, especially being COVID and being from home and just leaving my job and starting a new, like, it was just chaos. And I'm like, I need some focus points. And so, I do that every Friday morning with Sarah, where I do my measurements and I weigh it, and I don't get on the scale any other time during the week, and I'm not in the mental space to do that. And I don't want to fidget with it. And do I lose weight every week? No, not at all.
I feel that.
Sometimes my measurements go up, even though you're quote unquote doing the right things. And it's just like, that's how your body is. And I know that through all the information I've been through in the past decade of living through all of this. And it's just good for me though, to have Sarah, where I check in on Fridays. She sends me a video back of kind of, we're going through my photos, going through my progress, talking about where we're at. I discuss, things like, my stress or concussions or Lyme disease or whatever crazy shit that I go through like constantly, and, trying to work through those things. And it's been helpful of like, when you have those hard struggle points of like, you have a concussion, you can't do anything, literally do nothing. And I'm like, but exercise is a release and everything else, to have somebody be like, at least I can check in with her. You know what I mean? And,
to have someone in your corner.
And to be like, that's just been so helpful to just, have somebody that's like a touch point once a week to just, hey, I'm checking in. There's no like, what the hell did you do this week? And what'd you do that for? Like, I told her when I was going to Nashville, I'm like, yo, I'm not logging a damn thing. I'm doing my own thing. I know myself. I know what I'm doing. I know how to intuitively eat. I got this. Like, I'm on it. Yeah, dude, go have fun. Exactly. Rock it out.
And if you learn enough and feel secure, you don't always have to have this person forever.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm locked in.
You learn some lessons and
I'm not locked in like, oh my gosh, 5 years. I got this, I did 3 months. Will I do another 3? I'm on the fence about it.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. I may do 3 months, but right now I haven't made a commitment, and I feel okay with that. I don't feel like pressure. There's no pressure from her.
Yeah.
I just got to make the best choice for myself.
What do you think is next for you? I mean, obviously you answered with that, but I mean, with your fitness and stuff like that, do you have any other small goals? I know you started running 5Ks. Is there anything else where you're like, man, this is on my goal list. I want to try to be able to, I don't know, do an unassisted pull-up or something like that.
Oh, that would be nice. I'd probably have to think about it a little further, because anything I say is going to sound egotistical, like, I want my arm to look like I lift weights when I'm in pictures.
Okay. Hey, man, that's fair.
You know, or I want to feel like when I'm sitting down, I want to feel completely comfortable that, okay, yeah, this is my stomach, not like I have to put my arm in the way for the picture
Yeah.
or like really suck in. I just want to be comfortable, like 100% comfortable. Like, this is me. This is my little belly right here. You know?
And
It's
that's
just-
all mindset work. That's not, you know, I mean, obviously nutrition and exercise have a part of that because they do in just general life, but that's a lot of stuff that I've been working on.
Yeah.
Which is painful and hard in its own ways of like really working on self-love and like really loving my body at whatever size it is, whatever it looks like, and not being like you were saying, like, I gotta be smaller, I gotta be this, of like really being like, no, I love this body and I love me. And it sounds so whack to be like how hard that is, but it is so hard. And that's work every single day that I have to put in, and I work on myself and I sit with myself and journal and everything else about really being comfortable in my own body and really learning to love me. And that, I mean, everything else falls into place whenever you're coming from that space. And that's why, you know, it's been my hot bitch summer of like, you know what, I'm going to wear the clothes that makes me feel good right now. I don't care if other people are judging it, or she shouldn't be wearing that, or her body doesn't look good in that, or she's too old to do that, or any of those things of like, no, this is for me. I'm feeling good. These clothes make me feel good. What I'm doing makes me feel good. And I need to be okay with that without anybody else's permission other than my own. And that it's work.
Amen.
So, I mean, I think that's a good goal to have, is like, I think that's amazing to just be like, yeah, not be like, what's my body fat percentage? What's the weight? And what's the next thing there?
Yeah.
It's like,
numbers,
no, just
even
loving me.
Exactly. Like, embrace myself, love myself. Because I mean, both of us, everyone deserves to feel good, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So.
And yeah. And I also understand, you lift your shirt up. It's hot, bitch. That to find, you know, like-minded people and people in your crew that support that are like, yeah, come to me and let's chat about
Yes.
and empower each other. Because it sucks, because I've also learned in this journey, there's some catty people and people that aren't there for your goals and people that aren't supportive, and those people got to go.
Ditch the Debbie Downers. Ditch them. Cut them out. You'll get through it.
Which is hard, man.
It is
That's
hard.
too.
That's another part of it, which I could talk about forever. Of you're going to lose some people. You're going to lose some weight. You're going to lose some people.
Yeah,
you know?
because you've gone through that too.
If you're changing habits, some people are not going to change with. They're not going to change with you. Yeah. Hey, if you can find somebody that does, that's amazing. But some aren't. They're going to be stuck in their old way, and you are not that person anymore.
Yep.
It's like one big giant transformation to like just being the best version of you.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's cliche as hell, but it really is.
Because it's not only friendships, but I mean, I know marriages that have been broken up just because of, you know, lifestyle changes and
I've left
people can't
several
help.
dudes.
But just because you feel more empowered of like,
Or
hey, I'm
just,
better
we're
than
not doing the
this.
same thing. You're drinking all the time, and I'm like, I don't want to drink all night long and be hungover tomorrow and eat crappy food and go to a sports bar and eat wings and, you know?
Yeah.
At one point, oh yeah, I was all about that. But not anymore. I'm like, no, I want to be like productive with my day.
Yeah.
Not lay in bed because I'm hungover all day long.
Yeah.
You know?
Like you said, that's a whole nother podcast topic. Of
Exactly.
losing people along the way. But I'm so super proud of you. I think that you've done just amazing all around of just everything that you've done. And even like you coming to Podcast Movement with me in Nashville, that just shows people like, I want to learn. I want to better myself. That has nothing to do with your body. That has to do with like, yeah, this is something I want to learn about, and I'm empowering myself. And, you know, that I think that all of those things are such growth and huge steps, and that realizing that, you know, I need help in certain areas where you are like hiring Sarah, or you are going to, you know, different gyms, and you've tried out a bunch of different fitness things. Like you've tried several things over this past year.
A ton.
Of just like getting out there and experimenting and see what works for you, and like learning yourself and trying to just grow. And again, like you said, be the best version possible of like, you're doing all those things and you're showing up for yourself every single day. And I think that's amazing. And I'm just very proud of you.
Wow. Thank you. I honestly, like, a big credit of it goes to you, and I follow everything you do. Obviously, I'm like, oh, that's her trainer. Oh, she can be my trainer. Okay. Okay. I can get that juicy dumper. So thank you. Right back.
Oh, well, so I did want to throw it out there for anybody that is interested. And thank you, by the way. I'm just bad at accepting compliments. That
You're welcome.
That anybody is interested in working with Sarah, that she does all the things that we talked about. She does the one-on-one nutrition coaching and virtual training. She specializes in functional health, including but not limited to all gut health conditions, thyroid diseases, PCOS, and hormonal dysfunction. You can add on a meal plan if you wanted, which is reviewed by a registered dietitian. She does lab reads and recommendations, and she has a medical team. Like, she's got her shit together. She also has a food relationship coach partner who has been on this podcast, and she was absolutely amazing. She offers 0% financing offered through PayPal for all packages paid in full, and you can get 10% off 10% off a month, one of all packs. She wrote this out for me, and I'm like, I'm already just jacking this up. Sorry. 10% off 1 month off of all packages, plans, and add-on services when you go to teamfitwithme.com/pound this, which I do want to say that this whole podcast wasn't just like a huge ad for Sarah, but this is just our real life conversation and what we're both going through.
I'm not being paid to say this.
Yeah. And so that, if you want to support her, because she's, she found this podcast right after I first started it. And if you've heard the podcast I've done with Sarah, I just think it's amazing how, she found this podcast and it made some big changes for her. She found her coach through my podcast, and now she's my coach through this podcast, and she's your coach. And it's amazing. And I love the support. So if you go to teamfitwithme.com/pound this, you can get that 10% off and get more details. And obviously, me and Ashley are both a fan of Sarah, if you're interested in working with that. And we'll have to catch up again soon, and you have to give me another update on how everything is going, maybe like towards the end of the year or something.
Hell yeah, dude. Thanks for having me.
AmandaValentineBites.com